everyone, so we're going to start out a little different. If you agree with this, I want you to say yes, but I want you to say yes so loud that everyone upstairs is like, what is going on with those energetic women, all right? So say yes if you agree that how we communicate impacts our personal and professional success, yes? Yes. And I want you to say yes if you agree that your body language impacts your ability to create trust and connection with people, yes? Yes. So I'm an executive coach, and you know, I've always been told in my kind of career that people come into your life to really teach you lessons about yourself, stuff that you need to learn. But I want to tell you about a time I'm not proud of, and about a person that taught me a big lesson about myself and about body language and presence, because I got it really wrong. I was in Denver, Colorado years ago. It was the middle of winter, and you all know what it's like when you're in the winter, you get your big coat on, and the moment I walk out, the only thing I'm thinking about is getting to my car. And I remember walking out of this building, and I see this homeless lady over here on the side, but I turned to the left, and I just kind of beeline and got all cuddled up and started heading to the car. And this woman, in the sweetest, probably the sweetest tone I've ever heard in my career, I heard her say, "Excuse me, sir." And because I was so preoccupied with what my agenda was and getting to my car, I completely ignored her. And I kept walking to my car, and she said for a second time, in the same sweet tone, she goes, "Excuse me, sir." And I ignored her again. And on the third time, finally, she says, "Excuse me, sir." And I finally stop. And what happened is I turned around and I talked to this homeless lady. And I think I ended up giving her money and stuff, and we just had a quick conversation, and I got back to my car. And I sat in my Jeep, and everything that I have built my business is off this quote: "Take responsibility for your energy." And I realized in that moment, I did not take responsibility for the energy that I showed up with in that setting. And I made a commitment to myself that I hope that I would never treat someone else like that in my entire life. I made that homeless lady feel like she was completely invisible. And I thought about how many times how many of you as women feel like, just as leaders, as moms, you get so busy being busy that you lose yourself. Would you agree, yes? Yes. Yeah. So many women that I get to coach, that's what they say, "I'm so busy being busy." And what happens is, I think when we get busy, we sometimes forget the impact our presence has on people. And I made this person feel completely invisible, and like who they were did not matter. And I made a commitment. What I realized, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about giving anything. It was about showing up for people. And I didn't do that. So I made a commitment that I would never do that again. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. So I was coming in this room today, and I know when you found out you had assigned seats, someone goes, "I don't know if I'm feeling this." I heard someone out there, all right? So here's my challenge to every one of you, right? Was that, y'all, that's knowing laughter, like that was me, okay? I get it, right? But one of the things we just heard was, use this as an opportunity to network. More importantly, here's what I would tell you: show up for the women at your table. Because I'm a big believer that someone at that table needs to hear your message in only the way that you can say it. And someone at that table just needs someone to look at them and say, "Are you okay? What's going on?" Or, "You know what? I'm really proud of you and I believe in you." I think sometimes we just forget how important our presence is, our body language is, and how your body language is going to impact everyone else at that table here. And so I'll give you one a final example. I teach a leadership program every month at Taco Bell, and we teach a program called The Mark. And it's about, what is the mark that you want to leave as a leader? And I'll never forget the story. There was a woman, she went through the program about the type of impact she wanted to have and about her power of her presence. And she went back to her Taco Bell restaurant, and a woman drove through the drive-thru. And you know that moment when someone comes through, you meet someone, and you can just tell that something's wrong. Your intuition tells you, but you don't know what it is. So the RGM at the window could tell that something was wrong with this lady, and she looked at her, and she goes, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And the woman starts getting emotional, and she said to her, she goes, "You know, I'm actually on my first treatment to chemotherapy." She goes, "I have no one to go with me." And the RGM knew there was nothing she could do to fix that situation. But she knew her presence could make a difference to that woman. And she said to her, "Listen, I know this might sound a little crazy," but she goes, "I've been told a lot in my life that I give really good hugs. Can I give you a hug?" And that woman got out of her car and through the drive-through window hugged that manager. For that manager just to say to her, "Your presence matters, and we believe in you here. And when you get done with that, I want you to come back and let us know." That's the power that our presence has on people. So today, everything that I'm going to do is to teach you about body language. I studied body language from a former FBI agent. I built my career on helping leaders understand, how does your presence impact your ability to have influence, your ability to create trust and connection with people. It's going to impact the way that you love in your relationships. It's going to impact the way that you parent and the way that you have conversations with your kids. So I'm going to give you a lot to think about. But I know there's a lot of people out there who goes, listen, I've been through this body language stuff before. I got this down. So I'm going to challenge you right now. So at your table, it's going to be really interactive. You are not just going to sit here and listen to me. So at this, okay, I know you're like, thank goodness, all right? So what I want you to do is at your table, I want you to have a quick conversation. Now, I know a couple of you, I don't want you to look it up. I just want you to make your best guess. If I asked you, what is the most honest part of the body, I want you to think about what would you say it is? And I want you to share it at your table about, look, everyone's like, oh, I don't know, okay. What would you say is the most honest part of the body? Talk about it, and then I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to get going. All right. So I'm going to call on a few of you, and I'm going to ask some of the tables to kind of share, what do you think the most honest part of the body is, all right? So I do want to hear. So I'm going to start all the way over there in the fall. Oh, there you go. I got it. I love your energy. Tell me what it is.
Your face.
Okay, it's your face. What else do you think over here? Eyes. All the way in the back over there. What do you think?
Your whole body.
Eyes, your whole body. You just went for it all. She's like, I'm going to get it right. Everything. Okay? Good for you. All right. You're wrong, but good for you. Okay? What else? Okay, your arms, hands. Raise your hand if you think it's your face or your eyes. Raise your hand. Own it. I want you to own it, because y'all know I'm setting you up, right? Okay? You were wrong, okay? But see, that's what happens. Our entire careers, we've been taught, look people in the eyes, look them in the face. It's the most honest part of the body. Most of you know, if you have kids, you know they can look at you and be like, I didn't take it. Of course they did. Right? You know they did, right? So it is not your face or your eyes, right? It's important, but it is not the most honest part of the body. Now, I know someone, I put it out on Twitter and on the app last night. I actually asked some people, what do you think the most honest part of the body? And someone did get it right. What else? Anybody other guesses? It is your feet. Your feet. Look, it's only 8:35 and you're already learning. Look, okay? It's good, okay? Okay? So, I'm going to explain to you why as we go through here. Everything that I studied as an executive coach was actually about energy. And it is about how our energy impacts, our mindset, our presence. And I'm going to show you in a little bit. I'm going to have a few volunteers. I'm going to have a few volunteers share, and I'll show you why the feet are the most honest part of the body. Look, now everyone's like looking beside them. She don't like me. Please do not start doing that, okay? So I'm going to come back to it, but I do want you to know a few things about body language. This is why it's so important and why it's so accurate. Your thoughts and your feelings all get impacted by the limbic part of your brain. And then what happens is it comes out in your body language. And in the way you communicate, love, parent, all of that. And the other part is this. Body language is not about what anyone in this room wants it to mean. It is about perception. I want you to get that. Body language isn't about what anyone wants it to mean. It is about how other people are perceiving you, how they perceive you at your table right now, how they perceive you in meetings that you show up in. I love it when I have people come up to me and they do this. They'll cross their arms like this and they do all this and they're like, well, this is just comfortable for me. Well, okay, great, but it's not about you, okay? Right? It's not. It's about how other people on the other side of that message are perceiving you. I can't make you body language experts. Could it be because you're cold? Yes. Could it be because of something else? Yes. But it doesn't matter. It's about perception. And I'm going to give you an example. This is the difference between what I do and I think other body language experts. A lot of body language experts will get up here and they teach you how to analyze other people. And I don't agree with that, because everything that I teach executives in leadership is about connection. And it's about trust. And if you are so busy analyzing everyone else in the room, what are you not doing? You're not connecting. You're not even showing up for people. So I tell people, show up for yourself first. And what happens, the more you do that, the more you're going to start seeing other things in other people. And then you can just start asking questions. But we have to take responsibility for our own energy and how we're showing up and how our body language is impacting our ability to really lead and communicate more effectively. So out of 100% of communication, how much do you think is body language and nonverbal? What would you, just make a guess. What do you think? 75. There's a quote, there's a study, a lot of people say 93%, and it's often been misquoted. And what I would say is there's a lot of different stats on how important body language is, but I want you to know this. It's over 65%. So all you need to know is that the majority of how every one of you in this room, this entire week, people are going to experience you mostly by your nonverbal and your body language. And if there is ever a discrepancy between your words and your body language, what will people always believe more? Always believe your body language more. And so it's important. But most people, you'll understand some of the things I'm going to show you here in a second. We're going to make it interactive. I'm going to have some of you stand up and we'll do some stuff. But what happens is you might not know the science behind it. And I want you to understand the science behind it. And more importantly, I consider a lot of people, especially women in leadership and men in leadership, as coaches. And our job is to take this information back and now do something with it. So if you're standing up here and you're like, you know what, I feel like my body language is good, I got it together, well then what I hope you do is I hope you'll take this information back and coach someone else that's moving up in their career. I hope you have a child that has to go for an interview for a job, and to show them when they have to show up with confidence and power, how do you show up that way? But can we all agree in this room there's a time to be powerful and confident, but then there's a time to be empathetic and collaborative? Can you agree with that? Yes? Well, those look completely different. And how we show up impacts our ability to really have influence. So I'm going to give you your first question. There was in the Atlantic, they asked people in leadership, specifically women, but I think every leader should read this article. The article is called The Confidence Gap, but they asked people, does confidence matter just as much as competence? So does your confidence matter just as much as your competence? So at your table, I want you to share your opinion, yes or no, and why you believe that, and we're going to talk about it. Does confidence matter just as much as competence? Share it at your table. So I'm going to start, since I can hear a lot of the people up here, I'm going to start up here. So, by the way, most people will say the same answer. So when I say, does confidence matter just as much as competence, what do you think? Yes. Most people are like, oh, yes. Okay, they believe that. But I want to tell you why, and I want to understand your opinion about why you believe what you believe. So someone over here that says yes, why do you believe that your confidence matters just as much as your competence? What do you think? Okay, so confidence, yes. So confidence can display your competence. What else? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, you have to be confident in yourself, or they're going to read the fact, and you're never going to be. Someone said, like at this table, they're never going to believe you're competent. Mm-hmm. You don't have that confidence in yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an example. About a few years ago, I had this little cyst on my head, and I had to go to the doctor, and they were going to remove it. And I remember being in the doctor's office. I'm on my side. They put that little doily thing, whatever, on my head, right, the little hole. And I remember they numb my head. That is great. Okay, and I remember them taking the scalpel. You can't make this up. They take the scalpel, they slice like the little part of my head open, and the nurse goes, oh no. No, you don't say that. You don't say that to someone after you slice their head. And I go, what do you mean, oh no? And then what happened is she goes, well, it's bleeding more than we thought it would. Well, that's concerning, okay? And you all, I went to a reputable place. I mean, I've done my homework. But it reminded me, right? Because the moment someone shows up with, they could be the most competent person in this room, but the moment they can't show up with confidence, what happens to how we perceive them? We perceive them having less competence when they might be the smartest person or the most talented person in this room. The research actually came out, if you read the article, it was specifically written for women in leadership, but what it says is that the more confident people showed up, now I'm going to talk about it later, I don't mean arrogant, right? The more confident, authentic confidence, the more confident people showed up, the more competent other people actually perceive them as. Now let me tell you, I believe that only works short term. Long term, if you try to show up with all this bravado and right, you try to show up with all this confidence, but you can't back it up, people are going to be like, okay? They're going to read through it, right? So long term, your credibility as a leader is on the line. But confidence, I always say this to people, confidence matters. And I don't want you to underestimate how important that really is. So you all know what confidence looks like. You just probably don't know there's all these power zones on your body that actually display confidence. So I'm going to show it to you, but I want you to grab this handout. Take my fancy picture and turn it over on the back. And on the back of that handout is you're going to complete this throughout the entire session. So we're going to do a couple things. So you already know the first kind of top two buckets. So what's the most honest part of the body? What is it? Feet. It's your feet. So write that in on the top right. And in the middle, we talked about how much percentage of communication is nonverbal. It's over what? It's over 65%. So you got those two parts done. And so what I want to show you is I'm going to ask for a couple, you know, what I loved about those founders that stood up here, you know, I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and she talks about Teddy Roosevelt's quote about stepping into the arena. And what you all did as the founders, you all stepped into the arena maybe when some other women didn't. And so we honor you for that. And so I'm going to ask a couple of you to have some courage and be brave enough to step into the arena right now. So I want about 2 women at every table in this entire room to stand up. I'm going to ask you to do, now I'm not going to like put you on the spot individually, but I am going to ask 2 women from every table to stand up. I love that, yes. So this is where, okay, this is where it's gonna get good. Y'all better get your cell phones out. Okay, here we go, okay? So, this is where I'm gonna ask you to do a couple, look, I love that half the women like volunteered. You need to stand up, okay? I didn't choose to stand up, okay? So, I'm gonna ask you all, I'm gonna give you some just scenarios, and what I want you to, I don't want you to overthink it, I just want you to stand how you believe that scenario, how you would actually pose or what you would do with your presence. So here we go. Energetic women just came, and they are gonna be on the cover of a national magazine, and they want you, they're like, congratulations, we want you to represent the cover of our national magazine. So I want you to stand in your most confident, badass pose that you possibly can, okay? Okay? And don't move. Good. All right. Don't move, girlfriend. I got you, okay? All right, so watch. I'm going to show you a few things. We're going to come back to it. What happened to your pose, Angie? I loved it, okay? So what happens is, watch what happens. I'm going to come back to it, but a lot of the women in the room have their hands on their hips. There's a reason that they don't understand. Angie's over here is going crazy. Yes, okay? There's a reason why, when I think about confidence, right, that people take up a lot of space or kind of show their muscles. You don't know why. Yes, it feels confidence to you, but there's an actual reason why. There's another reason we'll talk about in a second when you got people that do cross their arms here. So does this look confident when I stand like this? It does. But what does it also look like? So it prevents connection. So there's a time and a place for everything. There's times on the airplane I cross right on over. I do not talk to me, right? God, been talking to people all day, right? But then there's times, but I understand what it takes to look like confidence will show up. There's interesting that it'll come up here in a second. So I'm going to watch a few of you. All right, next one. So I want you to think about you're attending a networking event like you did. So I want you to show up confident, but I want it to be more like a casual confidence where you're just kind of hanging out with your group or you're in the networking event last night. Maybe you can grab a drink if you need it beside you. But how would you stand if it's more like casual confidence? You're not posing. What would that look like? And I want you to stand that way. So here's what, this is interesting. Everyone just stands like wet noodles. Okay, here I am. It's good enough, okay? I will say, is it Mary? So Mary, when you started, you actually had your hand on the chair. Did you know, why did you do that? In your, you know?
Because it's pretty comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable? It is, yeah. And I'll show you why later. She's doing something that is smart when you want to look confident but still kind of keep it casual. I did see people, there was a few people in here that do this, and I'm going to show you what that means here in a second and why you actually do that. So I want you to think about you're given a presentation, so maybe you had to stand up here, and you're nervous and maybe a little anxious. What would you be doing if you were standing and you were nervous and uncomfortable? How would that look? And I want you to do that. You're like, I've been doing it the whole time, okay? All right. All right, so here's what you see. So we see this a lot. What you see is you see a lot of people like wringing their hands. People play with their cuticles. People will start rubbing their face, playing with their hair, doing all this kind of stuff. There's a reason why you're doing that behavior, and I'll show you. I'm going to do one with everyone else in the room. So I want everyone to have a seat at your table, and I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine, I'm going to do the last one, that you're sitting in a space, and maybe you're in one of those meetings you've been in all day, and you're just kind of checked out and you're bored. That better not happen in this one. one, okay? Okay. But I want you to imagine you're bored, and how would you be sitting if you were kind of checked out and bored? And I want you to sit that way at your table. I promise you all, I wish that you could see this. This entire table just picked out their cell phones. So, you all can stop now, okay? So, right, what happens is there is, and I might forget to tell you this, I'll give you one tip right now. There is one sign for boredom that hands down that we know when people have checked out. Which one is boredom versus which one is interest? And I don't have a podium to show you, but I'm gonna try to do it. So if I had my hand here, and I'm looking at you like this, right? This one versus this one, which one's boredom? I want you to know why. This is going to happen in every meetings you're in or even at home. So what am I doing here? Yeah, your head is really heavy, okay? And the moment that you have to start supporting your big head, what happens? Oh, you all, and we're clever and tricky about it. People do the thumb trick. They're going to be like, but you'll see the fat on the side of their face is going up. They've checked out. Now listen, I tell people all the time, if one or two people in your meeting or whatever are doing that, it's not a big deal. That is not about you. People might have been up in the morning getting ready, stuff happening with kids, you don't know. But if the whole room is doing it, it's you, okay? It is you. So it's important to understand what that looks like. And I do this thing when I speak and do long workshops all day. I understand that's just how we are. We check in, we check out. So I always have sticky notes on every table. And the reason why is if I see someone checking out or something, I'll say, you know what, grab a sticky note, because what does it force them to do? They have to take their hand down, they have to re-engage and get involved again. But I have to understand, I gotta be so fully present on this stage or in any type of meeting that I'm able to see and observe what's going on. First of all, with my body language and then the body language of other people. We'll do one more because this is interesting for people in leadership. I want you to imagine you're at your table making a pitch and you were trying to influence the people at your table and you're making a recommendation on whatever your position is. How would you sit if you were trying to recommend and make your pitch to your table? How would you sit? Oh, Lord. All right, so we're going to talk about a few things. Now, I know you all heard this 1,000 times. By the way, this is only my pet peeve. There's one gesture that really bothers me sometimes, and I feel like they've done this. We'll talk a little bit about gender differences, not a lot, because I think body language is just body language, and we see it across all genders. But I feel like a lot of women in leadership have been taught this gesture, and I'll tell you, I think it's good, but then I'm going to give you a caveat, is when they've been taught to do this. Have you ever seen this? I hate it, okay? So here's why. Because it is actually a power move. It's called a steeple. It's the same thing as this, like a basketball. This one is just a steeple. But what happens is when they've been to presentation skills program, whatever, they teach people to stand like this. Well, what happens is you actually do this when you're really passionate about something. You'll actually do that because you're not thinking about, oh, I'm passionate. But I saw a news anchor in Miami. I was in Miami one time, and she did this on live television. She goes, so I want you to think about authenticity, okay? She goes, so this is what I want to tell you. I should not have done this, but I took a video, I tweeted her and said, don't ever do that again, okay? Don't ever do that. That was when I was in my 20s. That was not good, okay? But what happened is, because it's not authentic, it looks forced, it looks contrived, it doesn't look natural when someone sits up here and is talking. You're gonna do it when you're really passionate about what you're talking about, so let it be natural. But what happens is people will sit at the table like this. I've never seen someone just on their own just sit like this. That it just doesn't, it's not, because everything I want you to do, I'll never teach you to be, or I'll never coach you to be someone you're not. I will always want you to show up and be authentic, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what happens is, you've heard this too, there are several women, especially in the front that I can see, where we put our hands under the table. And I think there's a time and a place to kind of keep your hands down, but I also think when you're trying to make your pitch, you want to show up as confident and powerful. And you're doing yourself a disservice when your hands are kind of under the table or lower. And I'm going to show you why. There are 4 power zones on your body that display power and confidence. So I'm going to show you what they are. I'm going to give you tons of examples. And I want you to start thinking about how would you, first of all, apply it in your own life, but then how can you take it back and help other people that you coach? So on your handout, there's a lady and this kind of superhero man and lady on the left-hand side. I want you to draw a line out from the 4 power zones. So power zone number 1, I want everyone to point right here. Everyone point to your neck dimple. You're like, I didn't even know I had one. There you go, okay? So it's your throat area. So that's going to be the first power zone is your throat. By the way, this is one of the gender differences, especially women that I've coached. When they get nervous and uncomfortable, what do a lot? A lot of times they will actually cover up their neck and start rubbing their neck and stuff like this. The moment you do that or you lower, you've weakened your power. So I want you to think about that. I'll show you why. How many, raise your hand, now let's be honest, moment of truth, don't be ashamed. How many of you have ever watched America's Next Top Model? Raise your hand. I know you're out there, okay? And listen, I don't think Tyra Banks has probably ever been through body language training, but she has definitely looked at enough photos to understand what confidence and power looks like. What does she always tell those women about their necks? She says, elongate your neck. And so what she means, right, is keeping this open as you communicate to people. So when I show up this way and look like this is going to look a lot more confident than the moment I cross over and do something like this. It's understanding how do I want to show up in this moment. If I want to be collaborative and, and think about just listen to you and let you have your moment, I might do this. But when it's my turn to speak and I want to show up confident, I'm going to keep this part of my body open. Number 2, it's going to be your torso. So I want you to draw a line out from your torso, and I'll give you an example. So I want you to imagine, can I borrow your book right here, this black book? I'll show you. So watch what happens. If we all got on an elevator right now, and we did not know each other, and you had something in your hands, without even thinking because the limbic part of your brain, what would you actually probably do with this? You will not even think about it, but you will probably take it and cover it up over your body. So why do you do that psychologically? Yeah, stranger danger. I don't know him, right? Okay? I don't know what he's going to do, all right? And so no offense, okay? But what happens is psychologically you don't know someone, and so your body is like fight or flight, right? So I'm going to protect myself and protect the vulnerable parts of my body. So that is what you're doing psychologically. And so I want you to think about how that shows up. When I look right here, when I keep those 2 power zones open, I'm going to come across a lot more confident and powerful than if I was to do something like this. And I'm going to show you why. So the third one that you never thought you'd ever have to write down in your life, and we're going to talk about it, is your naughty bits. So write that down, and I'll tell you why. I know, get the laughter out. I'll explain why, okay? So, look, if there's one thing you won't forget at this conference, it's naughty bits, okay? So here's why. When I asked a lot of you to stand up, and I said, I want you to stand up like you're giving a presentation, you're nervous and uncomfortable, how did a lot of those people around your table, how did people stand? They actually take their hands and they stand like this. And a lot of people do. This does not look nearly as confident as when you stand up and you keep all those power zones open. I'm going to show you a couple things. So, can I borrow this chair? You saw this chair to me. So watch what happens, men and women. Now women, it's even more important just from a leadership role, because just from etiquette, you've been taught, right, you're going to cross your legs when you sit. So it's even more important for you that from the waist up, that when you want to show up confident and powerful, that you maintain all of that. So from the torso area and your neck area, that you keep that open. But watch, so men especially, when they're really comfortable and they're sitting in a room, how often do they sit in a chair when they're really comfortable? Yeah, they're like, yep, and they just go on and sit in the chair like this, okay? Okay? Men would never sit like that if they were uncomfortable or nervous. It's just how we are psychologically hardwired. So the moment we get uncomfortable, we cross over. And I'll give you one final example when it goes with here. So the last one is your feet. So look at me before you write anything down. Which one looks more confident? Me with my feet standing together, talking to all of you like this, or the moment I put my feet apart and talk to you like this? It's apart. And I'm going to show you why, but I want you to give you a second to write that one down. So your feet are the 4th power zone on your body. And here's why. Here's the formula that I always tell people. Your confidence and your power equals space plus height. The more space you take up, the more height you have, you will always appear more confident to other people. So the more space you take up, the more height you have, the more confident you will appear to others. All right? So I gave you some famous women leaders, and I always, by the way, when I asked all of you to stand in that really confident pose at the very beginning, how did most people stand? Which one does it look like? Oh, you gave it to Beyonce. Right? You did, right? There's a reason why she does it, because in that moment, right, here's why. If power equals space plus height, the moment you stand like this is as big as you can possibly get. Unless you do this, and that's awkward. No one would be like, what is she doing, okay? So the moment you stand like this, even with one hand, it is as big as you can possibly get. You look really confident. You look powerful. Oprah, by the way, one of the things I love about her, one of my favorite people I'm going to talk about in a second is Diane Sawyer. And she knows when to show up confident and she knows when to show up empathetic. Well, watch what happens with Oprah. When she sits in a chair and there are arms on the chair, she very rarely puts her arms inside the chair. She takes up the space that she has because she knows it's going to make her look more confident as she's communicating with people. I'm going to show you one other one that I didn't talk about. Watch my head. From which one is going to look more confident? If you're disciplining a child, okay, or you're like getting on your kid, you've had a bad day, maybe your nerves are short, right? And you said, I said stop doing that. Is that one more confident, or I said stop doing that? You all? That doesn't even feel right, okay? Because in that moment, right, keeping your head straight forward, like when you mean business, you look forward to people. And you said, listen, this is what we're going to do, and we're done talking about it. Or it's assertiveness, or to say, you know what, I am really proud of you. This is confidence when we look directly at people. But there's going to be a time and a space not to do that. So I want you to start thinking about, when is the right time to show up confident and powerful? I don't ever speak behind a podium, but if I had to speak behind a podium, there's a couple of rules I would coach people on. Why do you think I don't speak behind a podium? It's not that there's anything wrong with it, but what do you think, for me as a speaker, why do I not speak behind a podium? What do you think? Well, I want to know what was said. What was said over there? Oh, covers my naughty bits. Okay. You all, it's true. I swore I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it. So I asked my mom. I was like, Mom, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was like, I'm going to go speak to 900 women. I go, you have any advice for me? This is why I love her. She goes, oh, just please make sure your zipper's not broken. I'm like, out of all the advice you could give me, that's what you say? But I'm like, but it's good advice, okay? Good advice, all right? So I think about, yes, you can't see all the power zones, but what does it also prevent? Connection. Because it takes a lot more confidence and power for me to step out from behind it and have nothing in front of me. This is a lot more vulnerable because there's eyes and there's people looking at you, where there's safety behind the podium. There's nothing wrong with it. Just for me, I know everything I teach is about connection, and this is the ability for me to connect at a deeper level. Another thing, if I had to present behind a podium, what could I do that could still give me the best of both worlds? What could I do? Yeah, so I'm going to tell you another story later, but I have the opportunity and the privilege, starting last year, to coach Miss Kentucky before she goes to Miss America. And when I coach her, one of the things we talk about is sometimes, if it's right, to step beside the podium and actually connect with people when you're in those interviews or when you're speaking to large groups of people. And you can easily even put your hand on the side of the podium and have the mic this way. So you're anchoring yourself to a solid surface. So anytime you anchor yourself to a surface, you actually assume the mass of that surface. So if I was looking at a wall, if I had my hand on the wall, I'm going to look stronger because I'm attaching myself to something that's pretty strong. So understanding how to use our body language to impact other people's perceptions of how we're showing up. And you'll see all of those people right there, whether it's Meryl Streep or Carly Fiorina. When they gesture, they usually keep it within the frame of their body, but they use their gestures. They take up space and height. The only other thing I would say is, I know I'm not sitting at your table, but watch this. When I coach people, especially even if you have kids, a lot of times if they're at a table, they'll keep themselves pretty small. And just from a gender difference perspective, what we know from research is a lot of times men, by the way, when they sit at a table, what do they typically do? They take up a lot of space. They're like dogs like claiming their land, okay? Like, this is my area. And so what happens is we take up space. What happens is a lot of times women, from what we know from research, don't. They keep their stuff in nice, neat little piles. It's not that you should not do that, but what we also understand is if I was to sit like this and I was sitting at the table, I want you to know in this rule now, what could I do just to show up more confident if I wanted to, instead of sitting like this? I could easily just take one arm and even put one arm on the table. And now I'm showing up all of these power zones open. I'm taking up more space. Sometimes it might not feel comfortable for you, but sometimes I put one arm in the back of the chair and I actually talk to people like this. So I'm taking up space. It's about understanding. My pastor one time said this. He goes, you can't meet people where they are when you think you're above them. And so sometimes I had to always tell myself, I have to understand what the situation calls for. I had an opportunity to coach a CEO, And when I went in there, it was the most arrogant, condescending person I have ever met in my career. But what I knew is people typically like people like themselves. So I didn't need to show up arrogant and condescending, but what I was not going to do is be meek and mild. And I was going to show up with confidence. And I looked right at this person at the end of our meeting and I said, I think we have a very different philosophy on leadership. And you should not hire me into your company if you do not align with this, because I don't think you're going to be happy with it. And they ended up hiring me, so that was good, all right? But what happens is I'm not gonna shrink so other people feel secure or insecure. I'm gonna say, in this moment, if I was to meet somebody where they are, I know I need to show up as confident, and I understand how to use and flex my body language to meet these people where they are. That's what it's about, all right? So let me take like 30 seconds or a minute. I'm gonna move on and talk about collaboration and empathy because it looks completely different. Any questions from you all that you have for me on just confidence and power? If you were sitting there thinking with your table, when it comes to confidence and power, any questions you have for me? Don't be shy to yell it out. Yeah, so should they cross their legs or not? I will never be that person that tells you yes or no. What I would say is, I think there's nothing wrong with crossing your legs. I think part of it is etiquette and just what feels comfortable, but you can still show up confident and powerful by sitting like that, by keeping all of this open. And to say, you know what, the thing I think we need to do is this. It's also, the words are important too. I don't want to discount how important the tone is and how your words are, but I also understand the importance of your body language as you deliver that message. If we have time, at the end of this, what I'll do is I always tell people, I don't want to coach you to be someone you're not. So I talk about your emotional wake. Everyone in this room leaves an emotional wake everywhere they go, and they're going to leave one at their table this week. So part of that is you got to get clear about how you want to show up, and then my job is to coach you to say, how do you be more of that person? I don't agree with any body language person that gets up here and says, do this gesture, don't do that gesture, because you're going to be in the conversation at that point just thinking, what do I do? How do I show up? And I don't think that's healthy. I do think it's okay to understand these rules because it's like working out. You know, when you go to the gym and you first start working out, it doesn't feel natural and it's hard and it's difficult. Well, sometimes learning these concepts that you're going to learn all throughout today and tomorrow, as you're doing this, it's going to take some work, and you're going to have to have enough self-awareness to see yourself in the conversation and say, you know what, I want to show up more confident, so today I'm just going to focus on keeping this part of my body open, or I'm going to really make sure from my torso up, that I'm showing up confident. So I don't think it's a right or wrong. I still think it's fine that I still think you can cross your legs and still show up confident and powerful. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So you can't grow anymore. So listen, this is where so how many of you all, and I don't know if I say this, I think it's at the end. How many of you have ever heard this in your career where somebody has been coaching and mentoring you and they tell you, I want you to go in and I want you to own the room? How many of you have heard that? Raise your hand. It's awful advice. Okay, I hate it. Okay, you're going to find out why when we get to the end, why I believe it's awful advice. Because what we tell people is stop being yourself. Go in there, put on a mask, go in there and fake it till you make it. And I hate it because what we teach leaders is to be is inauthentic. And then what happens is they make it and then they don't know how to be authentic. And so what I would say is, so I teach people it's not about owning the room, it's about owning your energy. And it's about owning your space. So there's no reason at 4'8" or 5'1", you can still take up space and own your space. Yes, someone might be taller beside you and someone else, but you can still, don't shrink so other people feel secure around you. Stand in your own confidence and stand in your ability to take up space and know how you need to show up. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, I think there was one more person. Anybody over here? Yeah, please. So if you didn't hear, she goes, how do you kind of counteract someone that maybe is trying to intimidate you, right? Because of their, whether it's their insecurity or whatever. Is that correct? Yeah. So here's my first response. Refuse to own his insecurity. Okay? So I would say that to anyone. I've coached a lot of people in my career, and, in my coaching world, they say this. There's some people in life, listen, you never know what someone's going through. And I always think sometimes people make a comment, and I'm like, I'm not even in that comment. That had nothing to do with me. That is all about you and your own baggage. Every one of you that walked in this door, Every one of you walked in with a bunch of invisible baggage that no one in this room gets to see, and you're dragging it everywhere you go. And you're leading, you're loving, and you're communicating, and you're filtering everything that I'm saying right now through your baggage. And I can't own that for you, but what I can own is how I deliver my message. I'm not going to shrink so you feel more secure. Now, if I know that something's not going right with the relationship, I'm not afraid to sit down and say, hey, this relationship's really important to me, and I feel like there's something going on. Let's talk about it. I'm not afraid. I always tell people, this is another topic besides body language, but I say, I love you enough to tell you the truth. And I think a lot of times we don't love people enough to tell them the truth because we're afraid of the reaction on the other side of the message. And so understanding it's not about not saying anything. I think we have to take responsibility for how we say it. I just had the opportunity to interview Taco Bell's president of international business. And I asked her, I go, what do you think is one of the biggest things that holds leaders back? And she said to me, I believe they let their intensity get in their way. And so what happens is people become so passionate, or they don't think about the intensity behind their words. Or think about this in your marriage or your relationship. If you go home and you ask your partner to take out the trash, and maybe they don't, right? And you do this. Oh my gosh, every time I do this, you never follow through. This is what happens every time. Look, y'all, that's knowing laughter. That's me, okay? Because what happens, you do that enough with your intensity and your presence, what do you tell that person? It's not safe to tell me the truth. What you teach people by your presence, it is no longer safe to come and tell me the truth about what you're experiencing and feeling. And what will they do? They will stop telling you the truth.